Blinken is set to visit Israel and the West Bank later on Wednesday as the conflict in Gaza moves into its fourth month. Key mediators from US, Qatar and Egypt looking to end the fighting are confident a truce is achievable, as Sarah Coates reports from Tel Aviv.
There's certainly quiet optimism here in the region that a deal may be done soon to end the war in Gaza and also free the remaining 130 or so Israeli hostages that remain in the Gaza Strip. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken holding a press conference with Qatar's Prime Minister on the back of a closed-door meeting in Doha. They said they received a response on the general framework of an agreement from Hamas. They say they cannot go into any details they are reviewing and will discuss with the Israelis. Well, Blinken says there's still a lot of work to be done, but he believes an agreement is possible. Hamas releasing a statement of its own, saying it's responded to the proposal in a positive spirit, but wants to end the offensive. Now, on Wednesday, the Secretary of State will spend the day here in Israel. He'll land in Tel Aviv. He'll hold meetings here before travelling to Jerusalem, also the West Bank, where he'll meet with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. But certainly expected to be a tough day for the Secretary of State. He's up against the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, who remains firm in his stance that there will be no ceasefire until Israel's goals in the Gaza Strip are achieved. He came out earlier this week saying one of those goals is to kill every single Hamas leader. In Tel Aviv, Sarah Coates reporting for DD India.
And ahead of Blinken's visit, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told a briefing on Tuesday that the U.S. is reviewing Hamas' response to a hostage deal, asserting that there's still a lot to be done before having a final deal.
It is important that we get to a humanitarian deal. The president and his team has been working around the clock to get this done. We want to make sure we get those hostages home, including the American hostages. We understand there are about 6 of them that are part of that, that are part of the folks who are still part of the hostages, I should be more clear, that are being held. We want to get them home. We want to make sure we get that all-important humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people. That's what we're working on.
Meanwhile, the U.S. House of Representatives rejected a Republican-led bill on Tuesday that would provide $17.6 billion to Israel. Democrats said they wanted a vote instead on a broader measure that would also provide assistance to Ukraine, international humanitarian funding, and new money for border security. Aid for Israel, one of the largest recipients of U.S. foreign aid, has traditionally received a strong bipartisan support in Congress. But many opponents call the House legislation a political ploy by Republicans to distract from their opposition to the bipartisan immigration bill and new funding for border security. Democratic President Joe Biden, who supports the Senate bill, has, however, promised to veto the House's Israel-only measure. Also, the Iranian ambassador to the United Nations has denied his country is arming the Houthis as the Yemen-based rebels continue to take aim at vessels in the Red Sea. Amir Saeed Irawani told NBC News' Lester Holt that Iran is not at all responsible for the weapons being used by the group it allegedly funds. Those comments come as the Houthis successfully struck a British and a U.S. ship on Tuesday, casting doubt on the effectiveness of several waves of Western strikes on missile sites belonging to the militants. Benji Hire reports.
So a firm denial from Iran, which also warned the United States not to target a ship which officials in the US believe is providing vital intelligence to the Houthis to enable their attacks in the Red Sea. The Iran-backed proxy group, which Washington now categorises as a terror organisation, continues to hit commercial vessels in the region. Actions it claims are in support of Palestinians amid the Israel-Hamas war. The White House sees those attacks as a threat to the freedom of navigation, raising concerns about an escalation of the conflict in the Middle East and an impact to the global economy. with a vital artery of trade affected by this violence. The international ships in the firing line on Tuesday weren't badly damaged in this most recent incident, but it does speak to how the Houthi rebels remain undeterred. They say they'll increase the frequency of these attacks if the war in Gaza doesn't stop. Of course, the devastating civil war in Yemen, which has killed hundreds of thousands of people, is still ongoing after nearly a decade. There, Houthis are fighting the United Nations-recognised Yemeni government, backed by neighbouring Saudi Arabia. The attacks in the Red Sea, the retaliatory strikes by the US since, they seem to have put a hold on prospects of a UN-supported peace process that looked promising earlier last year. But the Biden administration insists it isn't planning on intervening in that conflict by overtly helping groups fighting in the war-torn nation. Benji Haya in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Well, the United States accused Russia of firing at least 9 North Korean-supplied missiles at Ukraine on Tuesday, while Moscow labelled Washington a direct accomplice in the downing of a Russian military transport plane last month. Russia's UN ambassador, Vasily Nebenzia, and Deputy US ambassador to the UN, Robert Wood, traded the accusations at a UN Security Council meeting on Ukraine. Robert Wood said Russia has launched DPRK-supplied ballistic missiles against Ukraine on at least 9 occasions.
To date, Russia has launched DPRK-supplied ballistic missiles against Ukraine on at least 9 occasions. Russia and the DPRK must be held accountable for their actions, which undermine long-standing obligations under UN Security Council resolutions. These unlawful arms transfers and potential technology transfers from Russia to the DPRK undermine regional stability and the global non-proliferation regime, as well as the Security Council's credibility.
Meanwhile, Vasily Nebenzia accused Washington of direct involvement in the Russia-Ukraine war and said the state is a direct accomplice in this crime as well.
Today, we possess irrefutable evidence that a phased array tracking radar for intercept on target surface-to-air missile was used to carry out the strike, which leaves no doubt that Washington is a direct accomplice in the crime as well.
Reports of a strike hitting a bakery in Russia-occupied eastern.
Well, ahead of his visit to Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, UN nuclear watchdog chief Rafael Grossi met Ukrainian President Zelensky in Kyiv on Tuesday. Grossi discussed the current security situation and potential risks at the occupied plant with Zelensky. Grossi plans to visit the plant to assess the feasibility of reducing staff and the safety of its aging uranium fuel. Well, President Volodymyr Zelensky ordered the creation of a separate branch of Ukraine's armed forces devoted to drones, which is a key part of the conduct of the war against Russia on Tuesday. Zelensky signed a decree calling on the government and general staff of the armed forces to work out issues on the creation within the forces of a separate force for drone systems. As per Zelensky's decree, the results of the study would be submitted to the Policy-Making National Security and Defense Council. Government said Ukraine aims to produce tens of thousands of drones every month.
Підписав указ, який розпочинає.
Defending assaults on battlefields is very often, thanks to drones, the destruction of the occupiers and their equipment, that's also drones. The task list for now is very clear: staff positions for working with drones, special units, effective training, and systemizing the experience in large-scale production, as well as attracting the best ideas and the best specialists to this sphere. These are tasks now for the Army, the Defense Ministry, and the government in general.
Конкретний результат.
And in an apparent bid to shore up stalling support for Kyiv, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz will visit Washington this week. Scholz will highlight Europe's efforts to help Ukraine. He will have one-on-one talks with US President Joe Biden, along with US lawmakers and CEOs on Friday to discuss primarily Ukraine and NATO. An official said that it is important for the Chancellor that all states do their bit to provide support for Ukraine. Scholz's trip comes amidst uncertainty over U.S. support for Ukraine, with Congress stalling over Biden's urgent request in October to approve an additional $61 billion. And shifting focus, the New York judge set to deliver a verdict in the Donald Trump civil fraud trial has ordered attorneys in the case to give him details about possible perjury by former Trump Organization Chief Financial Officer Allen Weisberg. In a letter docketed, Judge Arthur Engoron asked lawyers in the case to provide him with a letter detailing anything you know about the situation involving Allen Weisselberg. Engoron said the matter could affect the timing of his final ruling in the case, which is expected by mid-February. Trump, the front-runner for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination, is accused in the lawsuit of inflating his net worth by billions of dollars to secure better loan terms. Trump has denied wrongdoing and called the case a political vendetta. And moving on, Pakistan tightens security and sets up voting stations a day before general elections. The South Asian nation will go on polls on Thursday in a widely watched election that will lead to the formation of a new government. The elections are taking place after months of delay, as the country has been at the center of political, economic and judicial drama over the past year. The February 8th elections will take place for 336 seats in Pakistan's National Assembly, the lower house of parliament, along with 4 provincial assemblies. The top contenders include former PM Nawaz Sharif and Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, chairman of the Pakistan People's Party. And 3 Senegalese opposition lawmakers were arrested on Tuesday amid the fallout from Parliament's move to delay a presidential vote by 10 months that prompted West Africa's economic and political bloc to call for the re-establishment of the electoral calendar. On Monday, lawmakers approved a last-minute amendment to hold the vote on 15th of December instead of 25th February, sealing an extension of President Macky Sall's mandate that has sparked street protest and international alarm. On Tuesday, ruling coalition lawmakers held a press conference to defend the move, urging the citizens to take part in a national dialogue to ensure a free and transparent vote. And news from around the world now. Scientists predict hundreds of billions of cicadas will appear in parts of the United States this spring, marking the first time since 1803. 2 broods of cicadas, one from northern Illinois and the other from southeastern U.S., will cross paths, with Illinois being the only place where both broods are expected to be visible. This rare event could lead to species crossing and evolutionary changes. The Icon of the Seas, the world's largest cruise ship, docked in Quintana Roo, Mexico, with thousands of passengers enjoying local attractions. Royal Caribbean International Cruise Ship, capable of 8,000 passengers, is set to sail from Miami. However, environmental groups are concerned about the potential release of harmful methane into the atmosphere. Carnival revelers in Rio de Janeiro are preparing for the world's largest carnival, which is celebrated in the iconic Sambadrome and hundreds of street parties known as blocos. Locals and tourists are swarming shops to buy colorful costumes for the massive celebration, which attracts Brazilians and tourists from around the world for elaborate parades in Sambadrome and on the streets. At Daming Palace National Heritage Park in Xi'an, visitors can enjoy contemporary lanterns infused with elements from the popular online game King of Glory. This year's Spring Festival, which falls on Saturday, combines traditional aesthetics with modern elements, creating a visually stunning spectacle. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will reply to the motion of thanks on presidential address delivered on the 31st of January 2024 in the Parliament at Rajya Sabha, the upper house of Parliament. India will fence the entire 1,643-kilometre long border with Myanmar and build a patrolling track next to the fence. And we also tell you about India's remarkable initiative aimed at empowering women and fostering self-reliance.
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authenticity.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on. Iran announced the initiation of a visa-free policy for Indian tourists visiting the country. Policy has been rolled out for Indian citizens from 4th of February. Individuals holding ordinary passports will be allowed to enter the country without a visa once every 6 months with a maximum stay of 15 days. Indians wanting to stay for a longer period or make multiple entries within a 6-month period or requiring other types of visas must obtain necessary visas from Iranian missions in India. Also, Iran has become the latest country in the past few months to give visa-free access to Indian tourists. Vietnam, Thailand, Sri Lanka have also eased visa rules for Indian tourists. And moving on, India will fence the entire 1,643 kilometers of long border with Myanmar and build a patrolling track next to the fence. India's Home Minister Amit Shah said. Taking to X, Amit Shah said the Modi government is committed to building impenetrable borders. It has decided to construct a fence along the entire 1,643 kilometer long Indo-Myanmar border. To facilitate better surveillance, a patrol track along the border will also be paved. Out of the total border length, a 10-kilometer stretch in Murray, Manipur has already been fenced. Furthermore, 2 pilot projects of fencing through the hybrid surveillance system are under execution. Additionally, fence works covering approximately 20 kilometers in Manipur have also been approved, and the work will start soon. Well, the Indian government on Tuesday issued an advisory to its citizens travelling to or based in Myanmar's Rakhine region not to travel to that region in view of the deteriorating security situation, disruption of means of telecommunication, and severe scarcity of essential commodities there. Indian citizens who are already in Rakhine state are advised to leave the state immediately. Well, with an aim to boost cooperation in the field of agriculture, the first meeting of India and Iran Joint Working Group was held in the national capital, New Delhi. During the meet, officials of both the countries emphasized on increasing cooperation in the field of balancing the import and export of agricultural products between the two nations. Well, the budget session of Indian Parliament has been extended till 10th of February. Leaders of both the houses to take up questions related to their concerned ministries. Important papers also to be tabled in both upper and lower house of Parliament. General discussion on the interim budget of Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir for 2024-25. Discussion and voting on the demands for grants on account of Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir for 24-25 also to be held. Debated motion of thanks on the President's address proposed in Rajya Sabha. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to give statement on the motion of thanks on President's address in Rajya Sabha. The upper house also to take up a discussion on the interim budget of Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir for 2024-25. And with an aim to further strengthen India-Bangladesh ties, Bangladesh Foreign Minister Dr. Hassan Mahmood arrived in New Delhi on Wednesday on a 3-day visit to India. During his visit, Dr. Mahmood is slated to engage in several meetings in addition to his planned bilateral discussions with India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. Earlier, Bangladesh Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Sahili Sabreen said that issues of mutual interest, including trade, connectivity and energy cooperation, people-to-people contacts and regional cooperation will be discussed between the two sides at the bilateral meeting to further strengthen Bangladesh-India relations. And Guyana's Prime Minister Mark Phillips received a warm welcome as he arrived in India on Tuesday. As per the Ministry of External Affairs, the visit will further strengthen the multifaceted relationship between the two countries. Guyana's PM is scheduled to hold a meeting with India's President Draupadi Murmu. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. Preparations of the Indian Air Force for its mega exercise Vayu Shakti 2024 to be held on 17th of February is presently underway at the Jodhpur Air Force Station in the Indian state of Rajasthan. During the exercise, the Air Force will demonstrate its air fighting and operational capabilities by focusing on interoperability and maneuvering. India's leading politician Sharad Pawar's National Congress Party has been stripped of its election symbol by the Election Commission of India. The symbol has been allocated to two political factions of his nephew Ajit Pawar. The Election Commission, in a special concession to the Sharad Pawar group, allowed it a one-time option to claim a name for its new political outfit and send 3 preferences to the EC by 3 p.m. IST on Wednesday. Amid intense cold wave conditions across India's Himachal Pradesh, visuals of fresh snowfall at the Atal Tunnel in the Rohtang shared by Manali police is doing rounds on the internet. Meanwhile, with prediction of snowfall throughout the state for the next 2 days, the Regional Meteorological Centre in Shimla issued an orange alert for the state. A remarkable initiative aimed at empowering women and fostering self-reliance was organized in northern India's Udhampur. The program also aimed at protecting the planet from plastic as women stitched jute bags for a greener future. And in Spain, farmers blocked traffic on several major highways and burned tires on Tuesday, joining colleagues in other European countries protesting against high cost, bureaucracy and competition from non-EU nations. At least 14 highways in the regions of Catalonia, Andalusia, Castilla-La Mancha and Valencia were blocked. Several farmer associations had called for protest from the 1st of February. Many farmers took to the roads with their tractors, snarling traffic throughout the country. Over the past few days, blockades in France and Belgium have escalated into violent clashes with the police.
Farmers' unions have hailed it as good news. A leading farmers' lobby in Brussels says the Commission's proposal was poorly designed, poorly evaluated and poorly financed to begin with, and did not offer farmers many alternatives. Protesting against the EU's farming regulation, hundreds of farmers had gathered here in Brussels just last week. One of their main complaints was that green regulations are burdensome and have hit their profits hard. And now analysts say EU officials have caved in. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says the sustainable use regulation, which aimed to slash the use of chemical pesticides in half by 2030, has become a polarizing issue. The rule would have completely prohibited the use of chemical pesticides in sensitive areas. This is part of the EU's plans to move away from commercial models of farming, especially as evidence of health risks associated with pesticides is growing. With the European Parliament elections approaching in June, elected officials are now being seen as softening their stance towards farmers. Political pundits say growing discontent among them would have shifted their vote to the far-right political parties, and that could be damaging to President von der Leyen's European People's Party, which is currently the biggest bloc in the House. The Commission says it is still committed to the idea of sustainable farming, and the conversation to arrive at a different approach will continue. Ishan Garg in Brussels, reporting for DD India.
And on to sports now. India entered a consecutive fifth Under-19 World Cup final as they beat host South Africa in the first semi-final of the Under-19 World Cup by 2 wickets at Villamoor Park in Benoni on Tuesday. Chasing 245, middle order batter Sachin Das hit 96 runs while captain Uday Shaharan scored 81 runs to bail India out after a top order collapse. Earlier, Luhandre Pretorius and Richard Selterwan smashed half-centuries to help South Africa post 244 for 7. For India, Raj Limbani took 3 wickets, while Mushir Khan also bagged a couple of scalps. India will play the final against the winner of the semi-final between Australia and Pakistan. And Saudi Arabia will host a new elite tennis exhibition featuring Novak Djokovic and Rafa Nadal. With 3 other Grand Slam winners in October, the country's General Entertainment Authority has announced. Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner, Daniil Medvedev and Holger Rune will also play at the 6th King Slam, which will form part of the Saudi Cultural and Entertainment Festival Riyadh season. With Sinner having recently won the Australian Open, Dane Rune is the only player on the 6-man roster without a Grand Slam title. While exhibition events in the Gulf are nothing new, they are usually played during breaks in the ATP season or after it has finished. The ATP has a full schedule in October, including mandatory Masters 1000 tournaments in Shanghai and Paris. And on to soccer now. Mausi Tamari scored a brilliant curling strike to stunt 2-time winners South Korea and sent Jordan to their first Asian Cup final on Tuesday with a 2-0 victory. Yazan Al-Naimat put Jordan ahead at the start of the second half with a clever dink before Tamari doubled their lead with a superb solo effort. Jordan had never gone beyond the quarterfinals before this year's tournament. They will face host Qatar or Iran in Saturday's final. And Messi and his Inter Miami teammates arrived in Tokyo in Japan for the next leg of their tour of Asia and will play Vissel Kobe on Wednesday. Speaking to media for the first time since the team and the co-owner David Beckham were booed off the field, Messi said on Tuesday it was unfortunate that he was unable to play, citing swelling in his adductor muscle. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Well, let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.